Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm playing in an extremely old school tank. This is the Tier 9 Soviet Heavy, the T-10. However, it wasn't always called the T-10 in World of Tanks when it was first introduced into the game as a replacement for the IS-4, which originally was Tier 9 in the Soviet tech tree and led on towards the IS-7. The T-10, originally known as the IS-8, was its replacement when they had a whole new branch of Soviet heavy tanks go in. When it went in, it was basically Wargaming trying to plug the gap between what would be the IS-3 and the IS-7. However, eventually, they probably thought that it didn't really make sense that an IS-8 would lead to an IS-7, and the numbering system down the tech tree, I guess it wasn't consistent, right? You want the numbers to get bigger as the tank gets better, right? And it wouldn't make sense going from an IS-8 up to an IS-7. So they changed the name to a T-10. So now you feel like, oh, well, you know, you go for an IS-3 to a T-10 to a IS-7. It's not really the biggest of deals. Now the T-10 is kind of this relic of World of Tanks past. The vehicle hasn't really received a buff in a very long time, and why would it? This vehicle was all about mobility and firepower, with a very powerful 122mm caliber gun, with fantastic high explosive anti-tank rounds at 340, and the AP rounds at 258 mean that you hardly ever have to fire gold, unless you really want to try and get through some of the thickest plates in the game. The T-10 at one point was one of, if not the most popular Tier 9s. Lots of people would play this thing time and time again, I guess because they were trying to either grind up towards the IS-7 or because it just had a really fun playstyle. And before Wargaming buffed the IS-7 now a few years ago, the T-10 probably had more fun gameplay, and I'd say the vehicle was better tier for tier. However, those days are kind of gone. The T-10 now has the third worst win ratio of any Tier 9 heavy tank, only marginally better than the Type 4 Heavy. So in a little bit of an awkward situation there. But what I'm going to be showing you today is that this old school tank can still have some real cool results, as we're just casually bludgeoning our way through the enemy team here. We've got 3,000 damage and we haven't even taken a scratch. Oh. Well, I guess I should have kept my mouth shut at that point, as finally the Moisien enters the T-10 from the front. Now, having got caught with my hand in the cookie jar, so to say there, trying to get a little bit more than I deserved or that I was entitled to, I'm going to change flanks, because I don't really think pushing through that breach against a Moisien with all of the tank destroyers that are towards my southwest is ever really going to work. So this is where you can use the mobility of the T-10. And also, while the vehicle doesn't have the best accuracy at .38, that's not bad for a Soviet tank. And this thing engaging at decent distances, especially with impressive penetration characteristics, can actually be alright. And I don't even think the shell velocity, well actually it's 940 and 920, yeah that's not good. That's definitely old school shell velocity there. Whereas a lot of the Tier 9s that seem to go into the game now do have better shell velocity than that, even APCR rounds on their standard ammunition. I'm looking at you, Mr. Concept 1B. However, luckily there's no concepts on the enemy team, so we're not going to have to deal with any of those. Okay, so I wanted to leave the breach, didn't feel like I could really do too much work along the north. Instead, why don't I try and help out the south, try and stop the enemy team from advancing through. And we pick up a kill on arguably the best Tier 8 tank in the game right now, which is the Skoda T56. So bizarre to think that I've got 440 alpha, which used to be fairly normal for a Tier 9 tank. And that Tier 8 Premium has 460, and it can fire 2 shots within 3.5 seconds. Oh, and he's probably got way better hull armor. Actually, I know he's got way better hull armor than me, and more gun depression. Probably less view range though. Oof, thank goodness, at least this vehicle has something. Now, the T-10, while it does have this nice gun with regards to its firepower, one thing it doesn't have is nice damage per minute. It's 2,146. That's not terrible, and if you pump it up with a gun rammer, or vents as well in addition, it's not the worst thing you're ever going to have. But I think it's more about the consistency of this gun. I think that's really what works on this tank. If you want to have something that has more raw rate of fire, then you probably want to go for something else. And I just realized I'm kind of making a big mistake here, and so is the T-124. Well, hopefully this little car will help me. Luckily, he misses, and I'm going to push through the car to be able to not have to lose the extra penetration off the round. And right now, what do? Do I try and go sit over there? I can't do that. I'm going to get shot from the south. I have to leave this position. And I'm willing to tank a shell from the Type 61 and a narrow miss from the artillery, quickly using my repair kit and my med kit to get back in to be able to avoid the T-124. Unfortunately for my Borask, that means that he's kind of the fall guy in that situation, which sucks for the Borask. But in that scenario, getting pressured by a tier 10 tank destroyer that will definitely outtrade me, with also having the covering fire of 2 dangerous medium tanks towards the south, I think I made the right call by getting out of there. And instead, I'm going to help this FV4005. I was going to let the mouse burn, but however, he has an extinguisher, manual one by the looks of it, puts the fire out, but we managed to finish them off. And the FV405 gives me a thumbs up. Nice, bud. We're going to need a lot more big, chunky shots from you if we're going to get back into this game, as we're down by 4,000 hit points and we're down by 3 kills as well. So I'm just hoping that Captain FV405 is going to stick with me, and we might have a chance of being able to get through this one. So there's an AE phase 1 over there. I got to be careful as well coming around this corner, because there are some unspotted TDs, and I bet you something like the SU or the Jagdtiger will most likely be at the A1 area, maybe now advancing forwards. And I've also got to watch out for this T-124. We fire, I'm not sure if that was my first heat round of the game, probably not. But that 340 heat just absolutely smashes any kind of thinly armored surface like that on the A phase 1. And right now, we can both take a shot from this E4, but we don't really want to take a shot from this E4. So I'm just trying to get him to make a mistake and maybe miss my lower plate or hit my tracks. But oh dear, there's a Borask coming in. The Borask shuts down the A phase 1. The T-124 hesitates, wanting to be able to turn towards the Borask. I go forwards and I realize, why would I block my friend? I let the FV405 get the one-shot kill, and then that allows me to put a round into the T-124 instead, and now I know that I can reload. And just like that, we actually keep all 3 players alive. Hopefully the considerate play there to realize, why would we want to invest the probably Hesh shell from the FV4005 into a T-124 when you could just one-shot the Soviet tank destroyer and keep everyone in the game? So sometimes it's about not being the selfish one there and letting your allies do the work even if they're behind you. And the FV405 just claps the Jagdtiger as they fall down. I felt sad that I was unable to help them out, but that FV4005 just put us back into this game. Oh my goodness, with some real big hits. They say, I try my best, sorry. What's that? Will Kraz, you have nothing to be sorry about. You are now leaving us in a 2 versus 5 situation, which quickly becomes a 2 versus 4. And the hit points are now starting to look fairly even. I've got 1,000 of them. The Borask is a one-shot. And I tell the Borask to go kill the SPG, but just as I do that, the blooming Object 140 comes around the corner, manages to spot them, and then there's an ELC for 90. Well, none of the players are AFK, and all of the players seem to be working together. And we're going to have a duel against an Object 140 here, who is also on 1,000 hit points. Oh, I fire a chancy shot through the front of their tank, but they pull back. I really felt like maybe I could get that one in, but unfortunately all I've done is just apply more pressure to myself and more pressure to the Borask. I need to be cheeky. I need to be aggressive here. I can't hang back. Then if I allow them to come at me all at the same time, there's no chance. I don't have an autoloader. I don't have high DPM. This is an old school tank, and we're going to have to play old school outnumbered scenarios, which is aggression, and oh dear. Unfortunately, even the vertical stabilizers on this tank doesn't allow us to be able to get that shot in on the move, but luckily the Object 140 comes around. They put a heat round into me, I put a heat round into them. The Borask is doing a fantastic job of kiting the ELC, and the last thing that I can do right now is to allow this Type 61 to flank me. I also got to watch out for the Object 140, who's got the better DPM by pretty much 50%, but wow, they are not trading very well in this situation as they allow us to get another big shot into the side of their tank. Luckily for me, the Type 61 was spotted over towards the west. The Borask is doing a fantastic job of being able to kite them, and I was thinking about shooting through the pipes there to be able to get the Object 140. That would have been a trick shot to end all trick shots. We're now up to 6 kills, nearly 7,000 damage, but our job is not done. There's still 4 vehicles left on the enemy team, and I got to be aggressive here. If I allow that Type 61 who's just come through the tunnel to be able to catch me, we are not going to be long left for this world. And I think with 722 hit points, I don't really want to trade them away, but I've got to invest them before possibly the artillery is going to be able to hit us as well. Luckily, no artillery shell. I'm going to reverse as quickly as I can to be able to go and help Captain Borask out and just use this pillar here to be able to hopefully avoid the artillery shells. Now, hopefully not spotted, the Type 61 appears. Am I going to try and go for a clutch shot? I do. Oh my lord. If I had not hit that one, to all intents and purposes, the Type 61 would have been able to go after us. Luckily, the artillery that we used, the crane behind us to be able to avoid shells from, narrowly misses our tank. But because they still did splash damage to us, that means that we now know exactly where the artillery is. And so I'm pinging the map. In fact, we've got an audience here. The FV4005 and the T103 also ping where the artillery was to try and let the Borask know. So I guess the Borask is going to try and avoid going into the cap circle so it's not obvious. I ping the map again. The FV4005 on our team pings the map again, and the Borask finally manages to find the SU-14 too. I'm a little bit nervous right now because there's an ELC even 90 on the enemy team, and while I don't have bad view range with 400 meters base, I don't have the best view range. I don't think I have all of the field mods yet on the T10 either, and so we're not able to pump the view range up in that way as well. I let the Borask know that I'm going to be able to help them. They come around the corner, put 382 in, and they finish off the SU-14 too. And now it's a case of how do you deal with finding a French light tank, and oh gosh, he manages to finish off my Borask while he was reloading. Alright, boys and girls, 1 versus 1. We've destroyed over half of the enemy team with 8 kills to our name, but we're going to need 1 more. So in this situation, there's no use camping. He's going to be able to spot me every single time. There's so many bushes on this map. What I have to do is I just have to try and go in and try and play like a fox and the hounds here. The fox is faster, but hopefully we can manage to cut off the distance. But the ELC actually goes right in front of us. I decide to pull the trigger to not allow them to possibly get a fire or an ammo rack or any kind of shenanigans. And we just went for it. What is there to say? When you got those shots, you got to take them. They didn't work for us with the first couple of clutch shots against the 140, but eventually they come true. And it was so beautiful to see that an old school tank like this can still have some really cool results in World of Tanks. So an ace tanker here for the T10 for 1,810 base experience, a Radley Walters medal for picking up those 9 kills, and a high caliber for the 7,300 damage dealt. But wow, Will Kraz, 89 in the FV4005, also dealt 6,500 damage. And I'd like to say a massive thank you to you, Will Kraz, for that synergy that we clearly had in that battle. If you didn't pull off those big boy shots against the SU-130 PM and the Jagdtiger, there's no way we would have been able to get through this one. So it was a pleasure to relocate and play with you. And so all in all, the T10, is it the kind of tank that I would recommend all of you jump immediately to be able to go and get? No, probably not. However, it's not bad statistically, and as long as you can make do with the hull armor, then it's alright. What I would thoroughly recommend with this vehicle is to make sure you play aggressively. Try and assault medium tank flanks, because its armor will work well occasionally against medium tanks, not so much against the heavies. However, its gun will truly overpower mediums in that scenario, as long as you don't let them use your DPM. However, I want to clarify once again, yeah, the T10 has the 3rd worst win ratio of any of the Tier 9 heavies, only better than the Type 4 heavy and the M6Y. So maybe it's not just a case of it's still cool, even though it's old school, but maybe an old school player like me can still make this relic work. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments, what kind of old school tanks do you still love to play in the game, even in 2022? And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Sunday, it's time for the World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase, live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, there's quite a coincidence, because you've all voted for the Object 277, aka the T10's bigger brother, to be featured in the showcase today. And so come along right now and I'll showcase the entirety of the fast Soviet heavy line, culminating with one of the most new player-friendly tanks, the Object 277. So, really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.